Good evening, Fernwood. It is your TV watching pal Neil here, and it's time for us to have a TV night with another episode of Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. Today we are watching episode 154 from season 2 of the series, November 4th, 1976. I believe we can start recapping. On Wednesday's episode, Mrs. Defarge pointed the finger at Heather and not Mary, and that meant that Mary got away with her plan of switching Chester's lunchbox. In Mr. Ackerman's office, author Gore Vidal makes very clear that he feels it's unethical to be holding Mary against her will, although it's not really against her will, and he uses a call from talk show host Merv Griffin to get his point across. Later, inside the ward, Merle Jeters comes to Wanda Rittenhouse to make an apology for how he treated her late husband. She doesn't seem to be too bothered by his death, and there seem to be some sparks flying. Then Gore makes a very heartfelt goodbye to Mary and passes her a notebook, which he says is what she needs to get the book finished. Of course, the notebook is empty, and this is a moment of inspiration for Mary. At the Hartman residence, it seems that Heather and Tom are getting along just fine, with Tippy Toes parking in their driveway but taking up Mary's space. Mary calls to say that she's coming home, and Tom has a lackluster response. And then finally the Haggers get a letter from the doctor who has a medical treatment. The doctor seems somewhat sketchy in my eyes, but that seems to give Charlie some hope for the future. That is our recap, everyone. You know what we're doing.
Mary Hartman! Mary Hartman!
Merle?
Yeah.
I've arranged it for you to say a few words down at the building site today before the time capsule is buried.
No, let him talk, not just a few words. Listen, this man is a spellbinder. Now, you give him 10 minutes and that crowd will be ready to do anything.
I tell you, I was thinking that since the time capsule will be, laid right in there with the cornerstone of my late son's life's work, actually, I was just wondering if I couldn't dedicate the building that's going to go up over that cornerstone to the greater glory of his Lord, and I think everyone's Lord.
Well, that's fine, Merle. Just fine. But while you're at it, please remember to say something about the greater glory of Fernwood, Ohio, because, well, after all, the Chamber of Commerce is picking up the tab on this. And
right.
Like the man said, if you bring along the sugar, you're entitled to a cup of coffee.
Oh. Hey, I like that.
Honey, you are always so good with words.
That's
Thank you,
cute.
darling. It's a matter of listening, really. You don't hire a man for his ears so much, though, really. It's what's between them. That's the way I've always approached business.
Well, I just wanted to say goodbye, Chester, and I wanted to tell you that I've really enjoyed meeting you, and I do hope that you will come and see me when you get out of here.
That'll be today.
Today.
We're all getting out today. Out of Ohio. With a bang.
Thomas, how you doing?
Hi, Mary. You ready?
Yeah, I'm coming. Well, goodbye, Chester.
Goodbye, Marianne. Say goodbye to Ohio for me.
You're in it too, Chester. Just try to keep that in mind, okay?
It's finally Mary Hartman homecoming day. Oh, Mary, isn't this so exciting?
Oh, isn't it? I mean, I've just never had a day named after me. I mean, now I know what St. Valentine must have felt like.
And you look so pretty.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Nurse Gimble. Your arm. What happened to your arm?
Oh, nothing.
That's a very big bruise.
From a blood
It's,
pressure
ran
test.
into a door.
What?
Baby doll here bumped her arm on a door.
Did you say something about a blood pressure test?
There wasn't any blood pressure test.
Yes, there was, honey. Don't you remember?
I had no idea you could get such a nasty bruise from a blood pressure test.
That's not how she...
The doctor, he wrapped the thing around too tight. You remember, honey?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he wrapped it too tight?
Yes, and then she bumped into a door. But it's really nothing at all, is it, darling? No. Hey, you know what? We should get moving. This is going to be a big day, a red letter day. Yeah. This is a day that Fernwood, Ohio leads the United States of America in the celebration of our country's tricentennial.
And you arranged it, honey. You are a genius.
That's what they pay me for, buttercakes. Come on, let's get this show on the road.
Mona! Mona!
Hi, Mary.
Hi!
Tom.
Hi, Mona.
Mona! Oh, it's such a surprise to see you. You should see how you look.
Listen, I heard all about this being Mary Hartman Homecoming Day. Congratulations, dear.
Oh, thank you. And everybody, this is Mona Mackenzie, my sex friend.
How are you?
dear.
Mona is a sex therapist, and what she does is she fixes up shaky marriages by having sex with the husband, and sometimes, with the wife too. I'm not exactly sure how it works. It's a very complicated system, causing all sorts of problems.
She sleeps with the husband and that fixes up the marriage?
No, well, she doesn't just sleep with the husband. I mean, she does it scientifically. It's called being a surrogate. Trust me, Wanda, it's very complicated.
Well, that's funny. Where I was brought up, it was called, oh gosh, lots of things, but that wasn't one of them.
Mona! Mona, why are you here? Why are you here to perform some sex therapy on the patients? Because in all honesty, I feel some of them could use it.
I'm sure. But no sex therapy here, at least not officially.
Then what?
Well, I've just been admitted to the psychiatric ward as a patient.
A patient? Oh, no, Mona. A patient?
I'm a little tired.
What, did you have an NB?
A what?
It's a nervous breakdown. It's an interim.
Well, let's just say that I could no longer sensate my focus.
You couldn't? What was it? Too much sex?
Apparently. Or maybe it was just that relaxicizer salesman. He had a bedwetting problem and wanted to marry me. Imagine. Anyway, I started crying and I just couldn't stop.
Oh, Mona. I guess this all just goes to prove that, the old sayings aren't always right.
What old sayings?
Well, like you can never have too much of a good thing.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Mona, you'll be fine. You look very blonde.
Oh, Pa, what an exciting day. I never dreamed they'd name Mary Hartman Homecoming Day after my very own daughter. Isn't it exciting? It took me over a half hour to get ready. I kept putting on my pantyhose backwards, and I'm sure my deodorant is going to fail. Now, are you all ready to leave?
As soon as I have this peanut butter sandwich.
Oh, no, Pa, not anymore. All that peanut butter is not good for you.
Martha, if Jimmy Carter is elected today, that kind of talk will get you in trouble with the CIA.
Kathy, are you ready?
Ma, do I have to go to this thing?
Of course you do, dear. We have reserved seats on the platform. Why, what would the neighbors say if the sister of the star of the Mary Hartman Homecoming Day did not go to the Mary Hartman Homecoming celebration?
Yeah, but what will the neighbors say if the pregnant sister of the star of Mary Hartman's Homecoming Day throws up all over the reserved seats of the platform?
Oh, Kathy, don't say that. I'm already too nervous. I'm liable to throw up.
You want some of my sandwich?
Oh, dear. Why did she have to get pregnant at a time like this?
Martha, when she was getting pregnant, I'm sure she had other thoughts on her mind besides Mary Hartman Homecoming Day.
Now what? Come in?
Mrs. Shumway?
Yes?
We're Mr. and Mrs. Rehnquist.
Oh, Rehnquist?
Jack and Jill. I'm Jack and she's Jill.
Oh, you're the people from outer space.
No, not from outer space, Mrs. Shumway. In touch with outer space.
Where your husband is.
Oh, yes, that's what you said in your letter.
In case anybody's interested, my name is Larkin. Raymond Larkin.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is my father.
You're sorry I'm your father?
Of course not, Grandpa.
Well, is he your grandfather or your father?
No, he's my father. That's why I call him Grandpa.
No, I don't understand.
You may think outer space is mysterious, but wait till you get to know this family.
We're just an average American family.
Sure. With a husband out of space, a father who's called Grandpa, and a daughter who's starting to celebrate America's tricentennial 100 years early.
Mary Hartman is my daughter.
Oh, yes, we've heard about her. But I guess your main concern now is getting your husband back from outer space.
Not if she knows when she's well off.
Now, how can you be sure that George was kidnapped into outer space?
That's a legitimate question, Mrs. Shumway. Perhaps I should begin by letting you examine my credentials.
That sounds dirty.
I was referring to my academic credentials. Now, both my wife and myself have graduate degrees in astronomy from the University of Pretoria. And we've both been on the faculty of Wilmot University instructing in parapsychology.
We wouldn't talk about these things if our work were not so unusual.
So, you really think you can bring George back from outer space?
I think so, and we both sincerely hope so. His disappearance must have been a terrible blow to you.
Oh, it certainly was a very big blow. I just hope your husband never gets out of the car to open the door for you and never gets there.
At least you know where he disappeared to.
Oh, now, have you actually talked to George in outer space?
No, but we have established contact with the Crine.
The Crine, K-R-I-N-E? Well, now, what's that? Won't you please sit down?
Q, we wrote an article about that in our last issue of the Outer Space Quarterly. We'll have to send you a copy.
The Crine is the leading power in outer space, the head of the government, so to speak.
Does he raise peanuts?
Now, tell me, how did you contact the Crine?
Well, that's a complicated question, Mrs. Shumway. We're going to that if you decide you want us to go ahead and negotiate for your husband's return to Earth.
Oh, I do. I absolutely do. Why don't you go ahead and talk to the Crine? You can use my telephone to call him if you want to. No, you better wait until 5, until the rates go down. It must be very expensive calling out of space.
We don't negotiate by telephone, Mrs. Shumway. And the Crine is not a he.
It's a woman? You mean the head of all outer space is a woman? Why, they're way ahead of us in women's lib, aren't they?
And what advanced race wouldn't be?
You'll have to excuse my wife, Mrs. Shumway. She's a little militant.
Well, I guess the Army is very good training for your kind of work.
Well, I think the best thing we can do is to sign the contract for extraterrestrial investigation and arrange for the down payment.
A down payment?
Well, naturally, there are some expenses incurred in our investigations, but I'm quite sure we can come to a satisfactory arrangement, perhaps over a period of 36 months.
How much is this going to cost?
Our standard fee is $3,500.
But the down payment is only $750. A small price for the safe return of your husband from outer space.
Well, I don't know. I have to let you know. There's a bit of a complication.
Oh.
You see, George has not been sending us any money from outer space. I guess there aren't any assembly lines up there for him to work on. So, until he is retrained in a new line of work, we're going to have to find some other means for raising those funds.
What'll it be?
What?
A drink. What'll it have?
A black velvet on the rocks. No, wait a minute. Make that a black and white. After all, I may be in mourning, but I'm not all that much in mourning.
You know mine, right?
Well, as we were saying.
Yeah, you know, when you call me, Miss Rittenhouse, I just wanted, Wanda, I just wanted to tell you that I know how difficult it is when death comes.
Yes, it is difficult.
I've always...
All the arrangements, financial, floral, and the sympathy.
Yeah. I was so sorry my own self.
No, don't be. It made me laugh. That eulogy, what a joke that was. The only true thing in it was that there wasn't a true word in it. My husband was never a great fan of the truth, Mr. Jeter.
Well, he certainly was a fan of yours.
Yeah, a great fan. As the kids say, he blew me away.
Gosh, I wish I'd known that the funeral was today.
No, I didn't tell a soul. I like small, private ceremonies, don't you?
Right. I know what you mean. Still and all, I would have liked to come by and say howdy. I've always felt that you people...
Merle, please. Look, I know that you believe in being honest with the public, so don't play a part with me.
No, my regrets are quite real, Miss.
Oh, of course they are, but really, Merle, I mean, regrets are one thing and funerals are another. Anyway, all that's in the past now, and here's the present.
Right.
Which brings us to the future. That is, to your future.
My future? Hmm? Misery. Wanda, I think you move a little bit too swift for an old country boy like me. I'm not much of what you call them rapid travelers.
Rapid transit.
Hmm?
That's a very interesting idea. No, but I was thinking about zoning, actually.
Zoning?
Oh, yes. Fernwood needs a new commissioner of zoning.
Well, you're not suggesting that I filled your husband's shoes.
Oh, no, not his shoes, just his post. And of course, it won't be entirely up to me. But I should have some say-so, especially in this outfit.
Yeah.
Look, Merle, speaking as a citizen and not as a widow, he left a terrible mess. You know, Fernwood is all bones and no flesh, thanks to him. Anyone who wouldn't play along with him, he zoned him residential.
Yeah.
The dressmaker, the kite shop, the butcher. You know, there was even a food co-op. Very sweet and economical, too. All gone. Now all we have is the plant, the bank, and the medical mall. Bones.
Still in all, I think you have to say Fernwood is a fine town.
Oh,
the people are
certainly. And so many possibilities, too. And that's why I thought of you. Now, you're honest and courageous and, well, let's face it, you have a wonderful presence. But most importantly of all, you love the people.
I do. I do love the people, and I think it's very complimentary of you to say that, but I never have. I just don't, I haven't got what you call the experience in politics.
Oh,
you
well,
understand?
everyone has to start somewhere, and I can see you have the calling, Mr. Jeter. I have an eye for that, believe me.
Yeah.
And I think it's just about time you were chosen. Don't you, Merle? You want a peanut?
No, thanks.
Well, I hope Mr. Miller gets here soon. I'm going to be sloshed. I tell you, I'm not used to this in the middle of the day. I'm going to be walking out of here like a swell-belly cow.
Chuck? Chuck Haggers? I'd recognize that cow talk on Mars, with or without hair on your head. 59 Chevy Impala called Shot in the Dark. I'm Jody.
Jody?
Troxel.
Hubie's son?
Yeah, only oldest, living or dead.
Sit down, sit down. Hubie Troxel's... Well, how come you remember me? You weren't nothing but a little bit...
7-year-old sidecar. You used to kneel on the ground to pat me on the head. Used to get grease in it, too.
Yeah, that's because you were always hanging around. When I was working on your dad's...
I'll never forget what you did for Dad's engine. Why, that machine used to hum your name every time it come down the strip at Brockway.
You remember that?
Yeah, that's nothing to forget. Chuck Haggers. I swear, you weren't even human. You had STP in your veins.
Yeah, I was a pretty good mechanic.
You were to cars what God was to the human race. Well, you were a racemaker. That's what you were.
Well, what about your dad? Now, what about your dad? Hubie, now, he was a wild man. He drove, man. He drove. He'd drive off a cliff on a dare.
Yeah, just what he finally did.
Hubie?
Yeah, I was away when it happened, but that's the story.
Gee, that's too bad.
Yep.
Well, so what are you doing? Are you still living on that farm just east of Brockway?
No, it's Green Giant now. They sold it as quick as they could, about as soon as they could round up all of Dad's pieces and put them in a box.
Oh, boy. So what are you doing? You in some kind of business?
I'm racing!
You're racing in your father's footsteps, huh?
Yeah, and his skids. For a year, I almost made it out of the brackets.
In a year you almost made... You must be so... That's real good. That's real good, Jody. That's real good.
Yeah, I'm fast. I don't know, my crew, I don't know. But I'm tired, you know. About as tired of racing as I am of standing still.
Oh, now that's no way to talk. That's no way to talk. What would your daddy say if he could hear you say a thing like that?
Not much. He wasn't the same man you knew after you left.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, he was a car driver, Mr. Haggers. You're the one that made him run.
Don't call me Mr. Haggers. My name's Charlie. Everyone around here calls me Charlie.
Charlie.
What do you mean about your dad? I mean, why, shoot, there were more grease monkeys around Brockway than a walla has flies. Couldn't he find another mechanic?
Nothing like you. Anyway, what are you doing now? Are you still with that, what was the name, the one that bought the diner?
Muriel? No. We went our separate ways. I tell you what, have you ever heard of Loretta Haggers? A song called Baby Boy?
Big old baby boy?
Yeah,
That's your wife?
I tell you what. You come around here hungry tonight, and you will get a dinner, a down-home, country-style, not-to-be-forgotten meal cooked up by the newest soon-to-be singing superstar over the skies of Nashville, or I don't know, a planetary from an open chamber head.
All right!
God, Jody Trucks.
Yeah.
I can't get over that.
There were a lot of beats. There were a lot of things to talk about in this episode that, you know, it seems like Mary's homecoming day, I don't remember the exact thing they called it, but Mary Hartman homecoming celebration is exciting. And, you know, we haven't necessarily seen the celebration of it, but there's stuff going on for sure. And in the ward, I feel like there were 3 different beats that I can recall. You know, Mary having homecoming day and saying goodbye to Chester, and a little bit of weirdness with Nurse Gimble and Garth trying to cover up this bruise. So what's up there? And then Mona Mackenzie shows up and she's going to be in the ward? Like, I don't know how that works. Like, are we going to have continuing story of the ward after Mary's out of it? Like, that's crazy. But also, like, Mona Mackenzie as a sex friend. I got the giggles this episode, but I think that was where it started. Mona Mackenzie being described as a sex friend. And I think that is a word that we need to use, although I will not call myself a sex friend in this show, at least. But that amused me. But it seems like... It seems sad a little bit that Mona did not love her job as much as one would hope. And, you know, I figure she wasn't very well trained, you know, like to deal with the emotional repercussions of her job. I don't know if there is such training, to be honest. I don't even know if there still are sex surrogates. So then we get Martha and Raymond and Jack and Jill. I mean, I found it amusing, but it definitely seems scamish to me that, you know, thousands of dollars to find someone in space. It would be a lot more to actually talk to someone in space using modern technology for sure. I don't know exactly what this is going to mean, and Martha doesn't have money coming in, which is, you know, really clear. I don't really know how she affords to stay in the place that she is. Maybe they own it already or something, but it seems scamish. Then we get a scene between Merle and Wanda, and that thing that I noticed between them, you know, is there's clearly romantic or sexual undertones, but Wanda, first of all, isn't really bothered by the death of her husband, which I think is fair, and is pushing Merle closer and closer to the political track. So taking over as commissioner for zoning. And I think Merle is, like I said, he's doing this face turn. So he's coming off as someone who's not ambitious for this position, but that people see a quality in him that they admire. And that's why he's getting it. It's not because he wants this, which is really different than where he was last season. He wanted everything, and now it's just like, he even said that he was mourning his son with the time capsule in the first scene. And I think he's not claiming to want this political power that continues to be thrust at him, but he appears to be called. At least that's what Wanda says, and others really in the previous episodes of this season have seen something in him that they want in front of him. Of course, many Peanuts references, because Jimmy Carter was president and he was a former peanut farmer. Well, we'll see what this means. But there is definitely, beside the political overtones, beside the political track, there definitely seem to be some romantic overtones between Wanda and Merle. So there. And then in another scene in the Capri Lounge, Charlie runs into Jody, who was a child when he last saw him, and we're finding out a little bit about Charlie's past, that he used to do mechanic work for car racing, and I think that this is a new direction for Charlie, which I think is really exciting, because I was getting tired of him being depressed about having one less testicle. I don't really know Jody's story. I guess, of course, I can't know it. It's just starting, but I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see Charlie perhaps take a new direction in his own life, and we will see. I mean, the next thing perhaps is seeing Loretta singing, and I don't know if that means that there's going to be some connection between Jody and Loretta. I don't know how they're going to connect. But at the now, I'm excited for Charlie to have a potential new direction in his life, because he's been pretty mopey, and we like it when people have positive direction. So, hey, that's where we are, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts and all that stuff, because comments are conversation. Thank you again for doing what you do, and we will see you tomorrow night in Fernwood.